Well, hey guys, we're in Jackson, Tennessee today, and in this little Mexican restaurant eating lunch when I noticed this poster, and I thought, well, hey, that's what we'll do today. We're going to visit the grave of and pay our respects to Carl Perkins. But first, I want to take you back to Amory where this concert took place. I ran across some folks that actually went to the concert here in the old National Guard Armory in Amory, Mississippi. And they say they think the concert took place somewhere in the fall or even early winter, not in March like the reproduction poster said. But nonetheless, this was the last time that Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, and Carl Perkins played together. In fact, Carl actually sort of stole the show that night. Most of the people were there to see Carl Perkins sing his new song, Blue Suede Shoes. We're back in Jackson now, driving by Carl's last home and recording studio. My favorite feature of this home is, of course, the two guitars up by the front door. Let's get us a little better view. Carl Perkins is definitely one of the main reasons that you ride along the Rockabilly Highway as you're coming into Jackson, Tennessee. And as I ride by his home, I'm just kind of in awe, maybe, of his creativity and the music he created and the people he worked with in his recording studio that you see in front of you. Now we're going to make our way out to the cemetery and pay our respects to Carl and his wife. And if you think you like this kind of content, hit that like button for us. Carl Lee Perkins was born on April 9th, 1932 in Tiptonville, Tennessee. And I believe, like Charlie Daniels said, he personified the Rockabilly era. Carl was a guitarist, a singer, and a songwriter, his music being recorded by artists and friends such as Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Johnny Cash, Jimi Hendrix, and Eric Clapton. Paul McCartney even said, if there were no Carl Perkins, there would be no Beatles. When Carl was a boy, he grew up working in the cotton field with his family. They listened to Southern gospel sung in church and well in the cotton fields. On Saturday nights, he would listen to the Grand Ole Opry, broadcast from Nashville on his father's radio. Roy Acuff inspired Carl to learn to play the guitar, but his father couldn't afford to buy him one, so Dad made him a guitar from a cigar box and a broomstick. Eventually, his dad got him a wore-out Gene Autry guitar, but Carl couldn't afford new strings when the strings broke, so he had to retie them. The knots would cut his fingers when he would slide to another note, so he began to bend notes. This created what became known as a blue note. When Carl Perkins was 14 years old, he wrote Let Me Take You to the Movie Mag, which persuaded Sam Phillips to sign Carl Perkins to his Sun Records label. Carl had his first paying job as a performer in 1946. At the Cotton Bowl Tavern, which was located on Highway 45, about 10 or 12 miles south of Jackson, Tennessee. Carl played around the area with various groups and artists, and in 1953, he married Valda Kreider. Carl's job at the bakery was reduced to part-time, and Valda encouraged him to take his music at the taverns full-time. Somewhere in the autumn of 1955, Carl Perkins wrote Blue Suede Shoes after he saw a dancer get angry with his date for scuffing up his shoes. On December the 19th, 1955, Perkins and his band recorded the song at Sun Records in Memphis. Elvis had left Sun for RCA in 1955, and, Sam Phillips told Carl something like, "You're my rockabilly cat now." Blue Suede Shoes was released on January 1st, 1956. It reached number 1 on the Billboard country music chart. In fact, it was the only number 1 hit Carl would ever have. It reached number 10 on the charts in the UK, and it was the first record by a Sun artist to sell 1 million copies. I really wanted to list Carl's music and tell you about some of the entertainers that he had worked with, but his music has permeated so much of what we know as modern music today that it would be hard to cover it all. In 2004, Rolling Stone ranked Carl Perkins number 99 on its list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. And many of the Beatles shows were full of rock and roll covers of Carl Perkins songs. There just aren't many people in modern music that Carl Perkins has not worked with in some way or another. This man simply had his hand in most of the music that somebody like me would have grown up listening to. And when you start looking at the number of entertainers who covered his music, the list just explodes. I mean, my goodness, how many people can mention Dolly Parton, George Thorogood and the Destroyers, the Beatles, the Kentucky Headhunters, and Ricky Nelson in reference to their work? To borrow a line from one of my favorite TV shows, Carl's music is just like putting butter on a Pop-Tart. It's so freaking good. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about Carl Perkins today. Thank you.